Hey everyone. Hope you're all doing well. We're all about bringing high-quality web novel audiobooks to life, and most of our content is completely free to enjoy. Just a quick note, web novels and web novel audiobooks aren't the same thing. Simply reading a novel out loud doesn't always make for a great listening experience. That's why I go through multiple rounds of rewriting and careful editing for every chapter to make sure the narration flows naturally and immerses you in the story, just like reading it yourself. These audiobooks are not just direct copies of the original novels. I've adapted them for a smoother, more engaging experience. And to be fully transparent, these adaptations are made for commercial purposes, so some chapters are paid content. But don't worry, this process is fully copyright compliant. I do all of this because I truly love web novels and audiobooks. I'm a huge fan, and this story is one of my personal favorites. YouTube update: recently, YouTube flagged some of our content for including mature themes, realistic violence, and darker story elements. As a result, we've decided to stop uploading anything that violates YouTube's guidelines. If you'd like access to the full, uncut versions including the more intense or mature content, you can find them on our Patreon page, where we upload everything first. Available now on Patreon: I Am a Legendary Boss audiobook, Versatile Mage starting with the White Tiger Pendant, Naruto the Wind Calamity, the Necromancer is amassing troops like crazy in the apocalypse, the mighty dragons are dead, Naruto, leader of Hidden Grass Village, Naruto Uchiha's Unserious Saga, your lord has a screw loose, Apocalypse I can see the health point bar, killing monsters drops loot, Starsea Fleet Age of the Lord, my monster fuses everything, Naruto, I traveled with a max level account, Fate in Bleach Unlimited Blade Works, killed for 100 years in Hueco Mundo, Aizen invited me to Soul Society, the world conquest giving birth to become a god, my master only breaks through on the edge of death, Bleach the Invincible Slacker from Rukongai, Naruto's Special Shop, One Piece the strongest female pirate cruise, Reborn as Danzō's grandson, must I offend the entire ninja world, Naruto starting with snatching the Mangekyo Sharingan, Naruto Card King, in Hueco Mundo with Shindu template, Naruto the Hidden Danzō, my journey as 4th Kusagakure, Naruto Troublesome Ninja Haruto, Naruto the Hyuga Mastermind, Bleach the strongest Shinigami, Bleach the 5th Division Captain, Fate Ultimate Antagonist, Fate of DXD, Fate I Heard After Death, you can ascend to the throne of heroes, Fate DXD Archer Reborn, Fate beginning with Type Moon, a Berserk Heart, Fate Grand Order Insert, One Piece take the Uchiha clan to the Grand Line, One Piece don't worry, I'm a doctor, building harem and dungeon with monster girls, DXD, Multiverse the day-to-day life of the Sephiroth hero, I'm the bad guy but heroines are obsessed with me, in Naruto, I have an affair with Mikoto and Kushina, many children bring happiness, a shameless start, Naruto Reborn with a Tenseigan, Naruto sleeping invincible, One Piece, life choice ask me to kiss marine goddess Hina, reborn as the genius son of the richest family, start by eating jacket fruit model, jacket human devil fruit, the days of being the richest man in the ninja world, the Witcher and Madara Uchiha, villain I possess the dragon Yang Dao physique, all saintesses turns into villainesses, all beautiful girls want to stick with me, interdimensional farming in another world, Naruto from Hidden Leaf Village to One Piece, and more. Most of our content there is free, and it's the best place to follow and support our work. The default audio speed is set to 3x, but if that's too fast for you, just let me know, I'm happy to adjust it. Got a favorite web novel you'd love to hear as an audiobook? Drop a suggestion. I'm always open to new ideas. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter, X for the latest updates, new releases, and behind-the-scenes content. Thanks so much for your continued support and happy listening. Chapter 1, Crossing Interstellar. By the power vested in me by the Empire's law, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Bang. Bang. The bride and groom, whose marriage had just become effective, both fell to the ground, unconscious. Nyan Shatong felt a pain at the back of her head and quickly sorted through her memories. When her tribulation had failed, a farming system had taken her across to the interstellar. These words, individually and together, made no sense to her. Now, she was a person of no physical ability and mental strength, expelled by the Nyan family, set to inherit a wasted planet, Blue Star, left by her foster parents after their death. According to Empire law, one must marry to become a planet master, so the Nyan family found a sickly person somewhere for them to marry. As the marriage took effect, one of the sickly individuals died immediately, and the other died of a heart condition. Oh. Too late. This was Nyan Shatong's first thought, a bit earlier, and she could have refused the marriage. Now she had to figure out how to kill. No. Get rid of the groom, troublesome. Nyan Shatong looked towards the other person lying on the ground, the sickly groom. Why is it a woman? Could it be that she herself is a man? No, the memories Nyan Shatong inherited indicated she was a woman, and an ugly one despised by others. At this moment, Fu Yun also opened his eyes. He, the esteemed first commander of the empire, had been betrayed by his own people on the insect clan battlefield and died. Now, he had reanimated in the body of a sickly groom and hadn't even had the chance to sort through his memories before he found himself gasping for air. Cough, cough, cough. Fu Yun couldn't help coughing as he woke up, followed by violent breathing, his breaths as fast as inflating a balloon per second. The restless breathing made the four indifferent people beside him lower their heads. Not dead? This one's not dead either. The tone was unmistakably disdainful, even carrying an impulse to stomp with their feet. Nyan Shatong sorted through her memories and slowly stood up with some calculations in her mind. Sorry to disappoint everyone, Nyan Shatong bowed, her behavior slightly strange. The three people standing and the Holy Father presiding over the wedding all watched Nyan Shatong. One of them, losing patience, spoke up, Nyan Shatong, since you are fine, please leave soon. You were never a Nyan family member, and you have no right to the Nyan family's resources. Correct. You are now married. Inherit your planet and leave the Nyan family. Nyan Shatong didn't actually want to stay in this so-called Nyan family, even though it was a prominent family with no worries about food or drink. She didn't like it. Her core had been changed, she was totally different from the original host and would be exposed sooner or later, so she actually preferred inheriting the Blue Star. However, Nyan Shatong turned to the Holy Father on stage and asked, is it possible to get a divorce? Like, annulling the marriage? The Holy Father looked at Nyan Shatong in a sacred and solemn manner saying, marriage is not a joke. I'm not joking. Nyan Shatong's somber face grew stern as she seriously analyzed, now that our marriage is effective, I have become a planet master. But since we are incompatible, why can't I ask for a divorce? The impatient man standing aside interjected, Nyan Shatong, don't cause trouble. After the marriage, once you leave your spiritual imprint on the planet, then you can become the planet master. In other words, she couldn't divorce yet. Nyan Shatong's disappointed expression was unmasked, but perhaps she could divorce in the future. Still, she privately ridiculed, what kind of absurd rule was this, needing a marriage to become a planet master? Could two people really populate a planet? She looked down at the groom, or perhaps the bride, who was still busy catching her breath and suddenly asked, bright-eyed, what if I became a widow instead? That would be even more perfect than a divorce. Chapter 2 White Flowers. Fu Yun, who lay below organizing his memories, finally understood his situation. Orphan. Sickly. Newlywed. Dead. But what had he just heard? A woman? A widow? Was he a woman? He quietly moved one hand, relieved, he was a man. Struggling, he and twice weakly, a faint voice arose. I am a man, not dead. Nyan Shatong glanced down briefly, scrutinizing him, an actual man? Eyebrows like paintings, skin smooth as cream, small rosebud lips, willowy waist, even his hands had slender fingers. Nyan Shatong then glanced at her hands, dark, rough, dry, peeling, and dull. One leaf heralds autumn, one hand reveals the face. Forget it, being ugly or not, it's not important. Nyan Shatong squatted down, her dark hand resting on Fu Yun's pulse, she spoke matter-of-factly, you are likely not going to survive the night. Fu Yun's breathing, already hurried, became even more so. Why wouldn't he survive the night? I'm fine. Nyan Shatong, looking at the somewhat disbelieving Fu Yun, continued, we are husband and wife, how can you distrust me like this? Rest assured, if you die, I won't remarry. Fu Yun was speechless, who the hell cared about her remarrying? He didn't want to die. No, he wouldn't die. Fu Yun, on the ground quickly driven by patterns to his death, found strength from somewhere within him and managed to stand up. He grabbed Nyan Shatong's arm for leverage, gritting his teeth as he forced out a few words. I will not die. Nyan Shatong looked helplessly at Fu Yun, what a stubborn beauty. She looked around regretfully and said, he's quite determined, maybe he really can make it through the night. Since that's the case, let's stay with the Nyan family to recuperate. If you get better, it's your good fortune, if you die, it's on me. Everyone around, including Fu Yun, stared at Nyan Shatong. The crowd thought, the Nyan family's known waste, could she really be so eloquent? Fu Yun, why on earth is my life up to you? Nyan Shatong did not care about everyone's looks, a poison cultivator like her, there was nothing she dared not do if she wished to. These were the most indirect words she had ever spoken. If not for her lack of strength, why would she bother saying these polished, beautified words? She put aside this topic for the moment and looked around, gray columns with dark patterns, a deep red roof, open on all sides, without walls. This was a quarter of the Nyan family, This wedding was so casual, separated by just one wall from the main street. Huh? What's that? Nyan Shatong casually pushed past a short-haired woman in front of her, who tried to stop her but was held back by another man beside her. Don't bother her, I've notified the housekeeper, he will be here soon. Really doesn't know her own good, still wanting to cling to the Nyan family. The three of them could see something different about Nyan Shatong, but they took it as her tactic to stay with the Nyan family. Nobody would want to become a planet master of a wasted planet, the lowest existence, also the quickest to die. Nyan Shatong, who had pushed people aside, moved to the edge of the corridor, where there was a half-meter-high stone flower bed, filled with white flowers. Deep green leaves, with one or two white flowers standing against the wind above. Nyan Shatong, not one to love and cherish plants, extended a finger to lightly touch the petals of a white flower. A route practiced countless times moved sluggishly within her, slightly obtuse, but the shattered magic treasure in her divine sense began to absorb energy. Just as suspected. These white flowers were poisonous. Nyan Shatong withdrew her finger, confirming her suspicions. She'd talk about it later. As long as there was poison, she was fearless. Ding. Host has discovered a superior species, potato. Farming system activation in progress. Potato? White flowers. Nyan Shatong, it's time for you to leave. Nyan Shatong had not yet figured out the connection between the two when an authoritative, middle-aged voice arrived. She paused in thought, looking toward the newcomer. The man was middle-aged, clean-shaven, dignified, his eyes calm. He was the housekeeper of the Nyan family, the family head's most trusted assistant, just below one, above tens of thousands. All right, Nyan Shatong didn't fuss, leaving was indeed the best choice. I want money. The housekeeper didn't even change his gaze, simply stating, you should leave. Nyan Shatong shook her head smiling, seeing that they regarded her as a waste, unworthy to negotiate terms. She walked with the slow gait of an old man to the side of the pretty yet sickly Fu Yun. Grabbing him, she said, since the housekeeper is so reluctant to let us go, let's stay. When the pretty boy dies, I'll buy him a coffin, place it at the Nyan family's door, and perform a widow's lamentation, to express my grief. Chapter 3, The Deal Grief? Fu Yun's eye roll was so exaggerated that it could have turned into a fan blade. You really should wipe that smirk off your face when you talk about being sad. Still, he made a sound to assert his vivid presence. Cough cough. Not dead. Nyan Shatong broke into a sudden smile, which, to be honest, wasn't remotely stunning due to her dark, rough features that left her facial expressions quite indiscernible. Although the smile wasn't pretty, it was enough to make Fu Yun's hair stand on end. The next second, with just a gentle push from Nyan Shatong, Fu Yun swayed a few times. He bit his tongue, determined to stand, not to fall. He, the Imperial Commander himself, bleeding and sweating. Bang. Oh well, lying down was quite comfortable, too. Fu Yun could finally breathe easily, this body was just too pathetic. That bang drew a glance from the housekeeper as Nyan Shatong spread her hands and said, my hand slipped. Fu Yun, on the floor, couldn't even muster the energy to roll his eyes. He might as well play dead and lie there like a salted fish. He doubted whether this sickly body, unable to stand, walk, or even breathe easily, would survive the day. Whether he went to the wasted planet or not, he was doomed to die young. Nyan Shatong withdrew her slightly regretful gaze and flashed an ugly smile that made one shiver, addressing the housekeeper. Housekeeper, let's continue our conversation. You should at least provide some travel expenses for my trip to the wasted planet, right? Nyan Shatong, don't be excessive. Hey. Nyan Shatong shook her head with a light laugh, I didn't expect you to be amusing. A waste, exiled and waiting for death, over the top? Ha ha ha. Nyan Shatong's laughter boomed as she threw her head back. She stopped abruptly as she bowed her head, then raised her gaze again. Her eyes held a smile that wasn't quite a smile but was tinged with a touch of madness. Her dark complexion paired with her rolling eyes was truly creepy. Everyone simultaneously thought, has she snapped? Gone mad? Looking back at Nyan Shatong, her eyes were fixated on the housekeeper like a vulture. Her tone was steady, but her words caught the housekeeper's attention. Housekeeper, I'm not a member of the Nyan family, and I won't cling to this place. However, the military merits my adoptive parents earned give me the right to stand here. Nyan Shatong activated her light computer, projecting it for all to see. Everyone watched as Nyan Shatong awkwardly navigated to the largest live streaming site, opened a streaming channel, and named it Zone 3 Nyan Family, a girl orphaned despite the illustrious military exploits of her parents. Who is she really? Since the housekeeper won't give me money, I'll just earn a bit myself. Nyan Shatong's finger hovered over the start streaming button. The housekeeper's gaze finally changed. No matter how powerful he was, he didn't have the authority to shut down someone's Star Network account in the blink of an eye. Nyan Shatong, what do you really want? Money. Nyan Shatong's eyes turned from white to black, looking innocently at the housekeeper. Isn't what I've said clear enough? Fine, I'll give you money. The housekeeper didn't want to blow things out of proportion. Nyan Shatong's adoptive parents truly had earned military merits, and making a scene could damage the family's reputation and displease the family head. 1,000 star coins. 100 million star coins. You're insane, Nyan Shatong. The housekeeper couldn't believe the outrageous sum Nyan Shatong was demanding. Nyan Shatong shrugged her shoulders and said to the housekeeper, bargaining, then? Name another price. For the first time, the housekeeper felt his years of self-discipline were somewhat in vain. He glanced at Nyan Shatong, who was waiting to haggle again. 2,000 star coins. 10 billion star coins. Nyan Shatong. The housekeeper punctuated each syllable. I'm here, aren't we just bargaining? Name another price. The housekeeper closed his eyes and spoke again, 10,000 star coins. Deal. Nyan Shatong's promptness choked the housekeeper, like a ball of tangled yarn stuck in his throat, unable to swallow, suffocating. He thought. Nyan Shatong would raise the price so he could explode in anger. But he had never expected. At this moment, Nyan Shatong extended her hand amiably and said to the housekeeper in a pleasant tone, please transfer the money. Chapter 4 The housekeeper didn't want to get entangled any further, though sharp-tongued, he was still a waste, an ugly one slated to die on the wasted planet with no eligibility for marriage. Another was sellable due to her beauty, but her temperament was too fierce and she was an unhealthy one. Together, they were a perfect match. He opened his Star Network account and directly transferred 10,000 star coins. I hope you get a chance to spend it. Nyan Shatong looked at the deposit notification with a genuinely joyful smile on her face and nodded earnestly at the housekeeper. Rest assured, I will certainly try my best. The housekeeper, seeing the rambling Nyan Shatong, thought she must have gone mad indeed. 10,000 star coins? The housekeeper chuckled internally, not sure if it was even truly hers. Unaware of the housekeeper's scheming, 10,000 star coins was not much for them, but for the penniless Nyan Shatong, it was significant. She couldn't get more, and she was unwilling to leave without any. She never felt that after arriving at the wasted planet, she only had a dead end. Others' dead ends might be her path to life. Thank you, housekeeper. Don't worry, I am very sensible. I will take the sick one and leave soon, said Nyan Shatong, pausing as if she was in a difficult position. But what? The housekeeper, his eyes bearing down on Nyan Shatong, even used a bit of his spiritual power. Nyan Shatong, with her powerful divine sense, was naturally unfazed. After all, she had just learned to use the Star Network. However, she pretended to suffer a headache, covering her forehead with one hand, not knowing why she said, I just want to pack my clothes. Ah. My head. It hurts. It hurts. Take her away. The housekeeper withdrew the spiritual force and addressed several people standing aside. Nyan Shatong, enough is enough. Phew. Nyan Shatong sighed lightly, looking around confusedly, then released her hand from her head and threw a look at the housekeeper. Rest assured, I will leave for sure. The housekeeper, receiving the look, shuddered as if chilled, wondering if they were that close. Such a fragile waist. The housekeeper walked away, hands behind his back, feeling cursed. Fu Yun, who had been lying on the ground gasping, also laboriously lifted a hand towards Nyan Shatong. Nyan Shatong calmly nodded at Fu Yun, reassuringly saying, Don't worry, I'll come back. You don't have to fear, no one will take care of your body if you die. Nyan Shatong then walked away, followers in tow, leaving only the Holy Father watching over the immobile Fu Yun. Fu Yun had no other options. Even if he declared himself as the Imperial Commander, no one would believe him now. Interstellar humans cultivated spiritual power and physical ability, and he was once among the strongest. To destroy a person's spiritual power and fuse one's own into it would cause rejection, a massive opposition, so no one would do that. How he would manage to resurrect himself was still a mystery. Currently, Fu Yun had nowhere to go. His only hope was Nyan Shatong, who constantly wished for his early demise. On the other side, Nyan Shatong truly went to her room to pack her things. However, when she emerged, the room she had once stayed in was empty except for the four walls. If it weren't for the lack of proper tools, she would have taken down the walls to craft a coffin for the frail beauty. Ah! Such a pity. Nyan Shatong looked at a button on her wrist, an exclusive space button from the Interstellar, gifted by her foster parents. Though it was the smallest kind, it was enough to store her belongings. It was a wonder why the Nyan family hadn't taken it away. Stepping out of the house, Nyan Shatong headed towards the Nyan family's flower garden. She said to a few people, "I'm going to pluck 2 flowers, that all right?" The people following her exchanged glances, eventually deciding not to stop her. These flowers in the garden, laden with mild toxins, were only kept on the periphery as ornaments, overlooked by everyone. Nyan Shatong nonchalantly walked, reaching out intermittently. She plucked the easily accessible flowers of various colors. Beep. Detecting farm vegetable, eggplant. Beep. Detecting farm vegetable, bell pepper. Beep. Host successfully activates 3 kinds of farm plants, rewards beginner's gift package. Her mind continuously beeped as Nyan Shatong exhibited no expression, eventually plucking 2 white flowers and a few strands of grass to make up the numbers. White flowers obtained. And there was even an unexpected bonus, not bad. From beginning to end, these scraps were her target. Packed up, Nyan Shatong returned to the Nyan family's corridor, looking once at Fu Yun still lying down and struggling to breathe. Still alive, impressive. Nyan Shatong then told the people behind her, "Please, take this strong sick man with me, we are ready to set off." A man stepped forward like grabbing a rag, casually seized the front of Fu Yun's shirt. Fu Yun was thus dragged along, limbs dangling naturally, feeling not far from death. After exiting, Nyan Shatong and the carried Fu Yun were placed aboard a starship. Nyan Shatong, internally, what is this? Fu Yun, such a battered starship? Chapter 5 Gift Pack. Nyan Shatong, though curious, could restrain herself. There was no need for sneaky glances, she would find out everything in due course. She calmly found a place to sit and closed her eyes to rest her spirit. The weakling Fu Yun was tossed right beside Nyan Shatong. He breathed with difficulty, his slender waist like that of a willow's, and his delicate and lovely face always sparked imaginings. However, Fu Yun hadn't noticed this yet, as his gaze was surveying this shabby starship. The starship was entirely silver, the front narrow like a boat, the cockpit, and the middle elongated into a rectangular shape, 30 meters wide, divided into several areas. The rear was for storage. After looking around, Fu Yun was genuinely concerned that the starship might shatter while passing through a wormhole. But what could he do? When under someone else's roof, you have to bow your head. He couldn't return. He glanced at Nyan Shatong beside him. Beyond her name, the memories of his original self held no understanding of her. It was because of his sickly constitution that he was brought along, just to fill out the numbers. For the Nyan family, whether he died sooner or later didn't matter. Sending him, the weakling, to a wasted planet filled with toxins was most fitting. Had he not gone, it seemed something unfavorable would have happened, only he couldn't remember at the moment. The original owner's memories had blocked out much content. Nyan Shatong, who was being stealthily observed, was currently checking the magic treasures in her mind. This was her life-bound magical treasure, now reduced to a mess from a thunderstrike. Nyan Shatong briefly checked it, then turned her attention to the so-called system that was bound to her soul. Beep. Greetings, host. Farming System 888 is at your service. What can you do? Beep. Greetings, host. Our system has been dedicated to farming for 10,000 years, providing the host with all sorts of farming knowledge and the items needed for cultivation. Why should I farm? Beep. Greetings, host. I am bound to your soul and the bond cannot be undone. Farming can repair your life-bound magical treasure, improve your physical constitution, increase your cultivation, and stabilize your foundation. Nyan Shatong realized that the system was tempting her, but she was, indeed, enticed. You set the terms, I agree. It's fair. Alright. Farming doesn't sound too bad, Nyan Shatong followed up. What was that about opening a newcomer gift package? Beep. Host has successfully started cultivating 3 types of crops, rewarding you with a newcomer gift package. Please accept. Nyan Shatong mentally commanded accept, and saw 3 items appear before her. Life-bound repair liquid, physical repair liquid, soil detection shovel. The 2 repair liquids were easy to understand. Nyan Shatong didn't rush to use them, opting to wait until she reached a safe place. As for that last shovel, she inquired about it. Beep. Soil detection shovel, assisting the host in finding the most suitable soil to grow the most compatible crops. Alright, this system wasn't a bad deal. Not only did it rescue her from heavenly thunder, but it also provided a means to establish a living. Nyan Shatong opened her eyes contentedly, and through windows that revealed no ripples or surges in her gaze, she looked out. The boundless void of space, primarily black with the occasional flicker of light, barely noticeable. Is this the universe, interstellar space? A realm broader even than the cultivation world. Cough cough. A weak cough that was familiar made Nyan Shatong turn her head to look at the sickly individual beside her. What was his name again? I would like some nutrient liquid. Fu Yun was completely out of strength. He felt that without some nutrient liquid, he might die even quicker. Nutrient liquid? Nyan Shatong took out the single bottle that belonged to the original owner from the space button, a bottle of dark green glass. Can this thing really be drunk? The memory suggested that most people subsisted on this kind of nutrient liquid, but its appearance, Nyan Shatong genuinely despised it. It was too reminiscent of the excrement of a fierce beast she knew from a past life. Thank you, I will repay you. Then I won't lend it to you. Handsome brother, one must be self-aware, your body wouldn't profit even with this, it's a losing deal, Nyan Shatong said as she took it back. Chapter 6 Silent Morning Handsome Brothers? What the hell is that supposed to mean? Fu Yun couldn't take his eyes off of Nyan Shatong. How many times had this woman wished he would die slower? I'm fine. Fu Yun struggled to sit up, desperately taking a few deep breaths to prove he was telling the truth, and finally managed to say something longer. I'm your lawful husband, the one who is supposed to go to the wasted planet and wait for death with you. Nyan Shatong shook her head in disapproval and said seriously, I prefer to die on my own. In other words, even if you died next to me, I'd find you a nuisance. Fu Yun had met his fair share of characters in his previous life, but now, none seemed to have thicker skin than Nyan Shatong. He spoke up again, I have money. Nyan Shatong glanced at Fu Yun with indifference and, still not too familiar with it, opened her Star Network account and handed it to him. Seeing is believing. 100,000 star coins per bottle. Please make a transfer to prove your determination to wait for death with me. Fu Yun breathed hard to maintain composure. A robber, huh? The cheapest nutrient liquid wasn't worth more than 2 star coins, and she dared to ask for 100,000? Ah. As expected, even in death, you're a poor ghost. No, wait, a poor, dazzling ghost. Nyan Shatong retracted her arm with a mix of regret and disdain. That's too expensive. Nyan Shatong looked at him with disapproval, giving him a serious lesson, the medicine that saves your life just before you die, no matter if it's a pile of shit, if you don't have it, it's worth that much. Don't you agree? What is she talking about? Fu Yun thought to himself, damn right she's got a point. He leaned back in the chair, bowed his head, and accessed his own Star Network account. No one knows how he did it, but in the end, he transferred 100,000 star coins to Nyan Shatong. Having received the money, Nyan Shatong's attitude changed rapidly. She kindly took out the dark green nutrient liquid, skillfully opened the cap, and handed it to Fu Yun. I hadn't realized. Little beauty, you're quite capable. Little beauty? Fu Yun frowned in displeasure. Why call him Little Beauty? He was a real man, he had secretly confirmed it. But Fu Yun didn't say anything. He glanced at his own account. This was his clandestine account as a commander, where all the covert income from battlefields was deposited, and no one knew about it. Fu Yun grabbed the dark green nutrient liquid and tilted his head back, draining it in one gulp. Nyan Shatong, seeing his grimace, knew just how awful that stuff tasted. She opted not to try it. Silence resumed between the two of them, with each harboring their own thoughts and distrust for the other, temporarily bound together. The starship continued to jump. Nyan Shatong's wasted planet was at a central traffic hub between the battlefield and the Empire. Though centrally located, their planet was on the edge, the most useless and most toxic among countless others. Otherwise, Nyan Shatong wouldn't have been chosen as the planet master. Officially the planet master, but essentially just left there to die. At that moment, a piece of news played on the void screen inside the starship. The Empire's first commander, Admiral Yun He, fell on the Insect Clan battlefield on July 21, 4321 of the star calendar. What? Commander Yun He? How is that possible? It can't be. He was so strong. It's a conspiracy. Definitely a conspiracy. Everyone inside the starship stood up in outrage, unwilling and afraid to believe this fact. Nyan Shatong watched the news, searched her memory, and recalled that Commander Yun He was a story of a civilian's successful rise through the ranks. Rumored to be a genius in spirit and physical ability, he rose through the ranks by fighting on the battlefield and became a commander, embodying a godlike figure in the hearts of the common people. She didn't really feel anything, but at her weak moments, she needed to blend in with the group. As for when she was strong, who cared about life and death? Let's have a 3-minute moment of silence for Commander Yun He. Like everyone else, Nyan Shatong carried out the moment of silence. Head down, eyes closed. How long is 3 minutes? All Nyan Shatong knew was that she was getting sleepy, wanting to doze off. Fu Yun was gratified that so many people were mourning for him, even Nyan Shatong, who always seemed to want to be a widow, was paying respects. He felt a strange sense of satisfaction. He turned his head to look at Nyan Shatong. Huh? Was this woman asleep? Chapter 7 Arrival. A moment of silence has concluded. Let's firmly keep Commander Yunhee in our hearts. As these words appeared on the screen, Nyan Shatong also opened her eyes, looking a bit dazed. The ceremony is over? She saw that the others had all taken their seats, so she simply settled herself down and continued to sleep. Fu Yun understood clearly that this woman had indeed fallen asleep, but despite the difficulty he was having breathing, he still said nothing. No strength, no courage to speak. He had considered contacting his old confidants, but even if he reached them, what then? He wouldn't live under someone else's protection, not to mention, it was still unclear who had plotted against him. The starship continued on its journey, and about 14 hours later, Nyan Shatong's destination arrived. She opened her eyes, stretched lazily, got up, and prepared to leave the starship. Cough cough. Don't forget me. Nyan Shatong paused her steps, reluctantly turned around, and dragged Fu Yun by his collar. Fu Yun, treated like a mop, felt no ripples in his heart. Any way of travel was fine as long as he didn't have to walk himself. Unable to walk. Just 7 short hours, but he was no longer the one who gritted his teeth and refused to fall. After the two disembarked from the starship, they rented a small, egg-shaped flying device, which cost 500 star coins a month, causing Nyan Shatong considerable pain. Aren't you rich? Fu Yun watched Nyan Shatong, who was in distress, and was quite puzzled. Do you want to ride? A streak of light flashed in Nyan Shatong's eyes as she looked at Fu Yun leaning against the wall. Ride. Alright, if you want to ride, that's fine. Nyan Shatong extended her arm again and opened her account, saying, please transfer the amount, the deposit plus half of the flying fee, totaling 725 star coins. Fu Yun looked at Nyan Shatong, wondering how one's face could be so thick. In the end, she effectively spent nothing and even earned 250 star coins, because Nyan Shatong didn't pay any deposit at all. She had used Fu Yun's Star Network account as collateral, rented with his account, and now he had to pay extra. Are you getting in or not? Nyan Shatong urged, is it really that hard to make some money? Getting in. Where else could he go if he didn't? It was clear she was setting a trap just for him. Fu Yun transferred 725 star coins to Nyan Shatong, who was quite satisfied with the transaction. She struggled to heave Fu Yun on board, internally cursing her own feeble body. It was bad enough that she couldn't cultivate, but her constitution was also miserably weak. The real question was, why could someone else with a weak constitution still look so beautiful? While she, despite her weakness, had this unsightly dark and homely appearance. Nyan Shatong lamented, took her seat, but the flying device didn't move for a long time. Aren't we leaving? Fu Yun looked at the unmoving Nyan Shatong and couldn't help but ask. I can't drive. Can't drive? Then why are you in the driver's seat? Inside, a tiny version of Fu Yun wanted to curse out loud. In his past life, he would have kicked her already. However, the present Fu Yun asked softly, shall I drive? You know how? Nyan Shatong's gaze was filled with doubt. Yes. Naturally, Fu Yun could drive, there was no machinery he couldn't handle. Nyan Shatong observed him for a while before finally switching seats with Fu Yun. Once they were both settled again, Fu Yun operated the vehicle with proficiency, punctuated by the occasional cough, and the flying device started moving. 40 minutes later, a blue-green planet came into both of their sights, stunningly beautiful. We've arrived. Cough cough. I see it, it's quite pretty, too. Nyan Shatong was very pleased with the color of the planet. After all, beautiful things were always a pleasure to the eye. What's it called? Gaia Planet, also known as Blue Star. Nyan Shatong nodded, satisfied with the name. Hey? What would happen if we tried to run now? Nyan Shatong looked at Fu Yun and asked. We would become people with no identity, wandering upon battlefields, and given your and my strength, we would likely die within 10 seconds. Nyan Shatong sighed deeply. It's dead end either way, huh? Quite interesting. For the first time, she truly faced the dilemma of choosing between two dead ends. Let's go down. Chapter 8 Heaven. The flying device landed steadily on the protective cover above Gaia Star, indicating that the planet had a master, but the owner was temporarily absent. This planet was a pure wasted planet, without even indigenous inhabitants. Perhaps it really would depend on two people to propagate an entire planet? From her memories, Nyan Shatong knew the former owner's spiritual imprint had been registered. She only needed to re-verify it with her spiritual power to become the planet master. But her spiritual power seemed different since her arrival. Could it still work? Nyan Shatong glanced at Fu Yun next to her, no longer caring. If it didn't work, she could just kill the man next to her, and then no one would know about it. Or kill him first? No, Interstellar people each had a light computer from birth, a device connected to the star network. If one died, it would be known immediately. Trouble. Sitting in the pilot's seat, Fu Yun was very certain, this woman wanted to kill him. Though he might be sickly, he was all too familiar with murder. As a man from the lower echelons, who had battled his way to the position of first commander, this was the sentiment he was most familiar with. Thinking to hear, Fu Yun couldn't help but wonder who could deceive him, silently plotting against him. He set aside these thoughts for the moment and turned to Nyan Shatong, saying, just place your hand on the protective cover, and it will autonomously detect your spiritual power and bind to it. Once bound, you will be the master of this planet. No one but yourself can undo it. Nyan Shatong looked at the very knowledgeable Fu Yun and said, you know a lot. Cough, cough, cough. Being sick for so long, just read a bit more. That was the excuse Fu Yun gave himself, considering the two had never met before. Nyan Shatong didn't speak. It was unclear whether she believed him or not. She stretched out one hand and slowly placed it on the protective cover. Her other hand's fingertips gathered a bit of poison, aimed in Fu Yun's direction. Meanwhile, Fu Yun, beside her, had one hand on the flying device's control stick, ready to defend himself at any moment. The moment Nyan Shatong's palm contacted the protective cover, her spiritual power automatically reached out and bound with a mysterious force. Just as it was about to finish, a streak of golden light followed her spiritual power and crept into Nyan Shatong's sea of consciousness. Her rich combat experience allowed the life-bound magical treasure in her sea of consciousness to immediately suppress the gold and steadily control it. Nyan Shatong, looking at her temporarily safe sea of consciousness, disregarded it for the moment and said to Fu Yun next to her, alright, let's go. Fu Yun also saw that the protective cover in front of him was gradually being removed, indicating he was still safe for the moment. He hesitated for a moment but still started the flying device and descended. With his frail body, piloting the flying device and drifting through the cosmos would hasten his demise. The flying device descended rapidly, touching ground after about 20 minutes. The moment Nyan Shatong stepped out of the door, her entire body's blood boiled, and the life-bound magical treasure in her sea of consciousness spun in excitement. Poison. It was all poison. The small green forest in front of her, every tree, every plant, was emitting a dense poisonous gas. To Nyan Shatong, these were all resources for her cultivation. Worth it. So worth it. She liked being the master of this planet. Living here to restore her former cultivation levels was just a matter of time. If she had known it would be like this, there was no point in wasting effort at the Nyan family, fussing over those two little poison flowers. No one knew Nyan Shatong's mood. On the other side, Fu Yun was almost crawling out of the flying device, and once he climbed down, he simply sat on the ground, unable to move further. Too tired. Cough, cough. This place is full of radiation-affected, toxic plants. We need to buy a poison-proof house, or we won't survive more than 2 days. Nyan Shatong turned around to look at Fu Yun sitting on the ground, listening to him continue. You can't cultivate. My cultivation is as good as none. Those who can't cultivate in such a toxic environment, every breath we take is harmful to our bodies. Having listened to Fu Yun's explanation, Nyan Shatong nodded in understanding, her expression showing genuine concern as she asked, so, are you going to die soon? Chapter 9 Value Die? Fu Yun twisted his body, propped himself up on the flying device, and stood. He took a few breaths, and after his breathing stabilized, he finally spoke. Nyan Shatong, let's talk. Nyan Shatong raised an eyebrow and walked over to Fu Yun. Speak. Fu Yun organized his thoughts since speaking too much was also tiring. I am of use. Alive, I am worth more than dead. Is that all? Nyan Shatong looked at Fu Yun. That's all. Nyan Shatong sized up Fu Yun with her eyes. Although he was good-looking, other than being a decorative piece, he wasn't much use. Your value dead exceeds your value alive, and besides, even if I do nothing, you won't live much longer. Don't worry, I will find you an excellent gravesite. Do you prefer burial or to have your ashes scattered by the wind? Nyan Shatong, who had already begun to consider the method of disposing of the body, asked the soon-to-be corpse with utmost seriousness. One should at least let a person die comfortably. Cough cough cough. Fu Yun felt discomfort in his chest, and a violent cough bent him over in agony. Cough cough, cough cough. Nyan Shatong stopped watching Fu Yun, turned, and walked away, intending to return once he was dead. Wait. I have money. Money. Nyan Shatong turned back with a smile on her face and said to Fu Yun, look at you, we're practically family, yet you're talking as if we're strangers. You should have mentioned your money earlier. Fu Yun watched Nyan Shatong's familiar gesture, as for the third time, the same arm reached out in front of him. He understood, opening his star network and once again transferring 5,000 star coins to Nyan Shatong's account. Upon receiving the transfer, Nyan Shatong wasn't satisfied with the amount but became slightly gentler, even offering a decent service as she helped Fu Yun by holding his arm. Come on, walk carefully. This was her cash cow. She hadn't revealed her spiritual power. The wealthy sickly one could stay for now to be fleeced slowly. She'd worry about the money running out later. Fu Yun, being supported, looked at his arm being held and thought about his account balance, calculating how many more times he could afford such support. Sigh. It seemed he needed to find a way to make money. Mainly, Fu Yun felt that his future life would likely involve spending money on buying life. Both were preoccupied with their own thoughts, yet both wore the most sincere smiles on their faces, as if the life and death discussion from moments ago had nothing to do with them. At this moment, they each gained a preliminary understanding of the other. He, wealthy and ailing, had nowhere to go. She, money-loving, thick-faced, harbored the coldest intentions of a woman's heart. Ah. Sickly one. What's your name again? Nyan Shatong changed her tone and looked toward Fu Yun. Fu Yun. Oh. Nyan Shatong nodded repeatedly. Zhao He. Fu Yun, filled with confusion and shock, looked toward Nyan Shatong. Zhao He? What kind of nonsense was that? Nyan Shatong wasn't even looking at Fu Yun as she continued. Zhao He. Your body is really in bad shape. With all your money, why don't you treat yourself? Could he say that he hadn't had the chance to seek treatment yet? Cough cough. Congenital weakness, hard to treat. Fu Yun was telling the truth. No matter how advanced genetic medicine became, it was predicated on having a good body to begin with. It only worked to enhance and improve your own physique, not to transform you entirely. Hard to treat? It seemed the interstellar medical standard was rather mediocre. Nyan Shatong supported Fu Yun for a while longer, arriving at a clearing backed by a mountain, with a small stream in front and a boundless forest beyond. Here will do. Where? Cough cough. Staying here? Yes. Nyan Shatong released Fu Yun and found a flat rock to lie down upon. Rest early. Rest? Where to rest? Outside in the open, as if he was eager to expedite his death? Fu Yun had indeed slept in the wild before, but that was back when he was the first commander, and his own spiritual power could fend off external toxins. But his current body, if he slept out like this, he'd be gone by midnight. He looked at Nyan Shatong, who seemed truly prepared to rest, and finally said, I'll buy a temporary shelter and protective cover. Nyan Shatong, lying down, immediately opened her eyes and urged Fu Yun on, her mood brightening. Zhao He, hurry up and buy it. If you die soon, I'll have nowhere to live. Chapter 10. Buying potatoes. Fu Yun gained a new level of appreciation for Nyan Shatong's thick-skinned nature. But, he still had to buy. Fu Yun looked down, opened the Star Network, which featured all sorts of virtual shops where one could sample food, drinks, and try on clothes, all through the internet. Guaranteed, so you can choose the products you like best and are most satisfied with. This one. Nyan Shatong's sudden outburst startled Fu Yun into a jolt. While sitting on a stone, he leaned back and instinctively reached out to grab Nyan Shatong beside him. But she dodged. Bang. Fu Yun landed on his back with his legs pointing skyward, looking up at the pitch-black night sky in a rather awkward pose. This color matched Nyan Shatong's heart perfectly. Cough cough. As Fu Yun continued to mentally complain, he couldn't help but cough. Nyan Shatong walked around the stone, lightly stepped on the ground, and looking down at Fu Yun said, buy the house, then die. Lying on the ground, Fu Yun moved his legs and put them down, turned on his side, propped himself up on one hand, and sat up with the other. Which one do you like? Fu Yun had no reaction to Nyan Shatong's actions or words. He knew all too well that although Nyan Shatong was now greedy for money, if he dared to propose any conditions, she would kill him the first chance she got. Even though she was doubly useless, he was even more so. The smile on Nyan Shatong's face became a bit more genuine. Good, she likes smart people. She crouched down, pointed to a small wooden house, and said, that one, good value for money. Fu Yun looked at the house Nyan Shatong was pointing at, a natural wood color, with a sloped roof and a double door in the center flanked by a window on each side. All right. Fu Yun placed the order proficiently, including a protective cover, totaling 17,000 star coins. After checkout, a red countdown immediately appeared on the screen. 46 minutes and counting down. Nyan Shatong was a bit surprised by the speed but didn't say anything. She'd study these interstellar matters herself later on. Moreover, in cultivation, it could be done even quicker with a teleportation talisman or a transmission array. After sorting out the major issue of sleeping accommodation, Nyan Shatong's stomach suddenly cramped. She didn't realize at first she was hungry. She had practiced fasting for countless years. Even when she ate, it was only to satisfy cravings, not hunger. Ding. Host detected as hungry, releasing the first task. Please plant 1 mu of potatoes. Where are you going? Fu Yun watched Nyan Shatong stepping away and asked. Just strolling. Nyan Shatong didn't look back, striding towards the big forest. Fu Yun didn't want to follow, and he didn't have the strength to. He leaned against a rock, his fingers busily operating something on the star network. In a moment, Fu Yun's star network interface looked somewhat different. The previously cheap-looking page seemed to have upgraded, becoming more classy and mysterious. Make do with this. Fu Yun put away the star network and closed his eyes to rest. Nyan Shatong, having crossed the river on large stones, reached the edge of the forest, where her life-bound magical treasure in her sea of consciousness stirred restlessly. Don't rush, we need to transform this body before we can work. Nyan Shatong calmed her life-bound treasure blade down and asked the system. How do I plant potatoes? Ding. Please buy the seeds for planting, there are rich rewards for completing each task. What do I buy with? Ding. The current currency is star coins. The price for potato seeds is 100 star coins per jin, pound, 1 mu, acre, of land is 666.67 square meters, requiring 200 jin, pounds, of potato seeds. So that meant she needed 20,000 star coins to buy potatoes to plant and complete the task. It's a bit expensive. But Nyan Shatong didn't hesitate, working to earn cultivation was a trade worth doing, even if expensive, she still had to do it. She told the system to make the purchase, and 20,000 star coins instantly disappeared from her account. Lucky she had scrounged that bit of money from the sickly one, otherwise, she wouldn't even be able to complete the first task. Ding. As a reward for the first purchase, the host is awarded 10 sproutless potatoes that can be consumed. Got food to eat? Chapter 11 Baking Potatoes. Nyan Shatong felt a bit of a chuckle escape her, she had to get used to this hunger. Taking a few steps towards the direction of the forest, she used the cover of the trees to take out the system's potatoes. Each about the size of her 2 fists put together, there were 10 in total, round and plump. She casually plucked a large leaf from a tree, placed the potatoes on it, and carried them back. Can these seeds withstand the attack of the toxins from outside? Nyan Shatong herself didn't fear the toxins because her cultivation actually needed them. The more toxic, the happier she was. However, for those who couldn't cultivate and the animals and plants, such an environment wasn't friendly, even deadly. Otherwise, the Nyan family wouldn't have otherwise insisted on an incompetent person with a sickly constitution to inherit a planet full of toxins. It was because they disdained to waste the Nyan family's cultivation resources on them. Ding. Host, please rest assured, our seeds have the ability to resist toxins, and the fruits produced from these seeds will not contain toxins. However, the fruits produced do not possess the seed's ability. In other words, the system was the largest seed merchant, she could only buy seeds from it. That's fine, Nyan Shatong wasn't very concerned about this. She continued to ask, how do you eat this? Ding. Potatoes are a type of tuberous vegetable with a high yield. They can be steamed, boiled, baked, sautéed, stir-fried, or stewed. There were quite a variety of cooking methods. Nyan Shatong carried the potatoes back to a large rock, where she placed the leaf on the ground. She turned and snapped off a branch from a dead tree, carried it back, opened the space button, and took out a cylindrical flamethrower. Hiss, with a sound, the flames spewed forth, and a pile of branches in front of her began to burn. Nyan Shatong roughly tossed all 10 potatoes into the fire, beginning to cook them, half roasted, half burned. That's not tasty. Fu Yun shifted his position, sat opposite Nyan Shatong, leaning against a large rock, and said it again. These gagas can be consumed, but after radiation, they are toxic. You can't cultivate, so you won't be able to expel the toxins on your own after eating them, which is very dangerous. You can drink nutrient liquid. 1 bottle for you. Nyan Shatong indeed only had 1 bottle, but even if she had more, she wouldn't drink it. Fu Yun did show a moment of surprise, but it was fleeting. She wasn't that kind-hearted. I can buy some for us to settle down, and after resting for a few days, we can make further plans, Fu Yun said, reaching to open the star network. Nyan Shatong didn't stop him. She wouldn't drink it, but Fu Yun had to. Fu Yun didn't hear Nyan Shatong's objection and thought she had agreed. He began to navigate the purchase of nutrient liquid. 10 minutes later, a fragrant smell slowly drifted away. Nyan Shatong's stomach was growling, and she only had one feeling, hunger. While opposite her, Fu Yun had his pupil shrink slightly, detecting a subtle change. That smell. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but the scent made Fu Yun feel as if his breathing had become a bit easier. Maybe it was tiny, but his keen spiritual power still noticed this slight change. He watched Nyan Shatong across him, poking out the gaga with a stick. What was this woman's background? Before he could ponder further, He saw Nyan Shutong brazenly break open the blackened outer layer of the gaga, not minding the heat. That rich aroma in a blink of an eye, the creamy yellow interior, made Fu Yun swallow a bit of saliva. Breathing seemed to be even smoother. Was this really toxic? At this moment, Fu Yun began to doubt. Ha, ha, huff huff. Nyan Shutong blew on the steam, took a bite. It was soft, fluffy, and sticky. The taste was rather bland, not much flavor, but not unpleasant to eat. Hey? Do you have salt? Nyan Shutong felt it lacked a bit of flavor and asked Fu Yun. Ah. No. Entirely captivated by the gaga, Fu Yun took a deep breath and said, no. He saw the what use are you look in Nyan Shutong's eyes and immediately said, I can buy it. By the time you buy it, I'll have finished eating, Nyan Shutong said as she finished one gaga. Watching her pick up another gaga, Fu Yun pretended to ask nonchalantly, this gaga tastes very peculiar. Nyan Shutong responded, mouthful of the hot potato, swallowing before saying, when we're about to die, why care about so much? Fu Yun was speechless. There was no reasoning with this woman. Nyan Shutong ate one after another. The 10 potatoes were soon left with only the last 4. Fu Yun was anxious to try one but didn't want to give Nyan Shutong anything to hold over him, so he kept a calm facade. Beep beep beep, there was a noise from above. The purchased goods had arrived. Chapter 12 Repair. Nyan Shutong had already eaten enough, but she didn't want to waste anything. Although it was given for free, she did spend money on it. Based on the price of the seed she was buying, the little money she had scraped together would soon be insufficient. Even though she wasn't very good at farming, she knew that the crops she planted needed time to mature. It seemed she would have to redouble her efforts and dig a bit deeper into her funds. At that moment, the delivery robot had already landed and was discussing with Fu Yun where to place the small wooden house. Fu Yun asked Nyan Shutong for her opinion and chose a flat area facing the forest. The robot took the small wooden house out of the space button. In the blink of an eye, its mechanical arm transformed into a screwdriver, and it circled a small wooden house, fixing it in place with a zzz sound. After installing the small house, the robot took out a small box containing the nutrient liquid, salt, and a poison barrier that Fu Yun had purchased. After completing its task, the rectangular body of the robot revealed a screen, and a pleasant childlike voice rang out, if you are satisfied, please give a 5-star rating. Fu Yun raised his arm to press the 5 stars for a good rating, but he froze in place. The robot was silver-white, and Fu Yun stared at the 7-part clear reflection of a person on the robot's body. Who was he? It took a while for Fu Yun to recover. Was this his current self? He suddenly understood why Nyan Shutong had said he was a woman. Thunderstruck. Astounding. Damn. He was a manly man. In his previous life, even if he wasn't particularly bulky, he was thoroughly masculine, with muscles and abs to show for it. But now, he had to live with such a pretty boy face. To call it a pretty boy face was actually a compliment. It was the kind of face he despised the most in his past life, a beautiful girl's face. Nyan Shutong, with her dark hand holding a potato, watched this scene with great interest and remarked, are you stunned by your own beauty? That makes sense, who doesn't like looking at a beauty? Do you like looking at it? Fu Yun retorted without thinking and immediately received Nyan Shutong's reply. If it's useful, I like it. If it's not. Hey. Her hey made her stance quite clear. Fu Yun closed his eyes and mentally prepared himself once, twice, 3 times. No big deal, no big deal. It's not easy to become more beautiful, but it's very simple to become uglier, very simple. He opened his eyes again, pressed a good rating, and the robot thanked him and left. Fu Yun turned to look at Nyan Shutong, now envying Nyan Shutong's appearance, which, installed on a man, didn't feel out of place at all. Fu Yun kept his thoughts to himself and spoke to Nyan Shutong. That. Rest early. He coughed and walked toward the small wooden house, controlling himself not to look at the 2 gada in Nyan Shutong's hands. He asked at the doorway, which side of the room do you want? Nyan Shutong, holding the dark potato, casually pointed to the right and said, this one. Fu Yun nodded, pushed the door open, and prepared to enter. Behind him, Nyan Shutong, who had finished eating, asked, do you want to buy a potato? A potato? Wasn't it a 2 gada? Nevertheless, Fu Yun replied without any hesitation, no need. His heart was bleeding, but he dared not reveal any flaws that might let Nyan Shutong know he wanted that object. Nyan Shutong didn't ask further, turned, and headed to the river's edge. She put the potato into the space button, washed her hands and face, and returned to sleep. I hope to still see you alive in the morning. Bang. Nyan Shutong closed the right room's door. Standing in front of the left room's door, Fu Yun gritted his teeth. Why didn't she ask again? You could have asked. If you asked, I would have bought it. He felt like beating his chest and stomping his feet, but looking disdainfully at his thin frame, he decided to save his energy. With a heart full of the gloom, Fu Yun grudgingly returned to the left room. The small wooden house was very simply furnished, with a couch in the middle of the living room and nothing else. Each side had a room, each with a bed, and that was it. Back in her room, Nyan Shatong finally had time to take the repair liquid provided by the system. She didn't want to wait another moment. She locked the doors and windows and began. She threw the life-bound repair liquid to Dao and drank the physical repair liquid herself. I don't feel anything. Nyan Shatong flopped onto the bed, waiting for the medicine to take effect. About a minute later, her bones and muscles began to change. Her original body was barely adequate for cultivation, but with this repair liquid, she could be transformed for optimal physical and cultivation states. Half an hour later, Nyan Shatong got up, the effects of the medicine having worn off. It was indeed useful, but it still fell far short of her body in her previous life. It seemed she needed to keep doing tasks and earning more. But now, she could begin cultivation. First, she checked her life-bound magical artifact, Dao, directing her consciousness toward the sea of consciousness. Damn! What is this? Dao, originally a palm-sized blue dagger, now glowed with golden light and its handle had grown over a meter long. Though still very ethereal and not solidified, how had it changed so much? Chapter 13, Heart of the Planet. Nyan Shatong first checked her life-bound contract. It was still there and it was still her Dao. Dao, what happened? Master. I absorbed that clump of golden energy. It is the heart of this planet. Golden energy? The planet's heart? Dao, how do you feel now? Is there anything amiss? Not only is there nothing amiss, but I also learned a lot. It carried all the memories of this planet, which I am slowly absorbing to make my own, and then relay back to you. Good, as long as you're fine. After confirming there was nothing wrong with Dao, Nyan Shatong assumed a meditation posture and began to cultivate. Familiar with the process of cultivation, she gradually operated it and began to absorb the toxins that were scattered around her. She was cultivating the poison scripture, absorbing outside toxins which, through a specific cultivation technique, were all converted into spiritual power, incrementally accumulating and transforming Nyan Shatong's body. Every medicine has its poison, and poison contends with 7 parts of medicine. Both complement and enhance each other. After a night of cultivation, Nyan Shatong entered the Qi cultivation stage, though the transformation of this body was not yet perfect, and her cultivation wasn't very smooth. She'd only just touched the first level. Combining her memories, those in the interstellar who cultivate physical ability and spiritual power are the ones capable of resisting external radiation without being eroded. In the entire interstellar, those who can't cultivate are considered oddities, because through generations of genetic optimization, aptitude can vary, but those who completely can't cultivate are indeed very rare. The original owner was that unable to cultivate oddity, which had caused her body to accumulate radiation toxins, turning her into a dreadfully dark figure. Interstellar physical ability cultivation starts from level 7, the lowest, to level 1, the highest, followed by SSS levels, which are extremely rare. Spiritual power starts from G, the lowest, to A level, and still followed by SSS levels, rarity being exceedingly singular. It's said that the deceased Commander Yunhe was a genius who cultivated to SSS level. Nyan Shatong did not estimate her current strength. She guessed that apart from the sickly neighbor, she couldn't beat anyone else. But the advantage of being skilled in poisons is that killing someone of a higher level is breezy. However, this place isn't the cultivation world. Although there is a war with the insect race, it only involves minor skirmishes. So, the overall environment is relatively peaceful, and naturally, she wouldn't do anything out of line. Low-profile strength, the ability to counter-strike at any moment, abundant money, living a farming retirement life wouldn't be bad either. Nyan Shatong straightened out her thoughts, stood up, and decided to see how the wealthy person across was doing. She quite hoped he was still alive. Opening her door, she knocked on the door across. Zhao, are you still alive? Inside the room, Fu Yun, lying on the bed, was managing his spiritual power. The name Zhao from Nyan Shatong almost caused his spiritual power to collapse. Decades of battle experience lent him a strong control, allowing him to soothe his spiritual power and slowly open his eyes. Just a moment, Fu Yun replied as loudly as he could to Nyan Shatong outside. Hearing the response, the outside Nyan Shatong simply walked away. As long as he was alive, it was fine. Inside, Fu Yun struggled to sit up. He needed to resolve this body's sickly constitution as soon as possible, otherwise, he was bound to explode someday. His SSS-level spiritual power from his previous life had come with him, but the original owner's body was like a sieve, absolutely unable to contain his spiritual power, and currently, he dared not use any ounce of power. If he did use it, he would end up exploding and dying. He knew, in the past, his physical constitution was also cultivated to an SS level. But innate constitution issues are considered incurable diseases in the interstellar. Fu Yun thought about Nyan Shutong's potato from yesterday. Could that thing really work? Thinking this, he first took several breaths to gather some strength, got out of bed, and left the house. Last night, he had activated the barrier, which currently effective within a 30-meter diameter centered on the small wooden house. However, Fu Yun was a little perplexed. Why did the completely useless Nyan Shutong seem completely fine? At the very least, he was a sickly person who could still cultivate, albeit extremely slowly, and use to repair and maintain his own innate constitution, so his cultivation was even worse than the non-cultivating Nyan Shutong. One word, useless. At that moment, the outside Nyan Shutong, who had found a thin stone, placed it on top of a ring of stones, beneath which flickered flames. "Morning, want something to eat?" Nyan Shutong called out as she turned her head. When Fu Yun saw her holding a knife in one hand and what seemed yesterday's leftover grub or maybe a potato, he directly asked, "How much?" Chapter 14. Opening a store. Nyan Shutong's smile instantly spread across her face as she calculated the price in her mind, 100 star coins for a pound of potatoes, though she had no conception of how much a pound actually was. Just estimate 1 potato per pound, she thought, it's not her own money being spent anyway. 200 star coins per slice. Nyan Shutong was very satisfied with her pricing. 1 potato cut into 5 slices would then be 1,000 star coins each. Only a tenfold increase. She really was too kind, but she did have plans for a long-term partnership. 200 star coins for a slice? Even without tasting it, and not knowing if it truly had healing effects. But, compared to the nutrient liquid that cost 100,000 per bottle, Fu Yun thought this was cheap. Incredibly cheap. He realized that getting used to such abuse wasn't too bad. Okay, Fu Yun said, accustomed to the process. He transferred 1,000 star coins to Nyan Shutong on the star network. Shouldn't he get 5 slices at least? Nyan Shutong received the star coins and nodded in satisfaction, then took a potato and began to slice it. After slicing, Nyan Shutong pushed the warm slices over with her knife and started slicing for herself. Fu Yun took out his own pair of chopsticks and picked up a slice of potato, becoming more excited as it neared his mouth. Yet his face remained expressionless, the epitome of calm. The moment he put it in his mouth, Fu Yun's spiritual power surged like parched earth meeting long-awaited rain, ceaselessly drawing in the energy from the potato slice. His ruined body didn't even have a chance to absorb it before it was gone. Fu Yun soothed his spiritual power covertly, preventing it from snatching the food, allowing the second potato slice to be absorbed by his body. If he needed to gasp 50 times a minute before, this one slice of potato let him gasp 49.5 times instead. It was truly effective. He had encountered something that could improve his inborn defects. This slice of potato settled Fu Yun's mind. He wasn't leaving. Definitely not leaving. Although Nyan Shutong didn't know what had happened, she felt the energy flux from the sickly figure beside her. What did it mean? Were they about to fight? Should she strike first? The first time I ate this too gaudy I mean potato, Fu Yun spoke up, explaining because he felt he had just come close to death. Huh? What about the salt? Nyan Shutong wasn't sure whether to believe him, but decided to abandon her plans to kill him, for now. Fu Yun internally breathed a sigh of relief. Life was indeed not easy. He took out the salt he bought yesterday and handed it to Nyan Shutong. She took it and opened it. Clatter, clatter, clang. The nail-sized, dark yellow salt granules fell onto the stone slab, one even putting a dent in a potato slice. This was salt? Are you sure it's not a rock? Nyan Shutong was inwardly repulsed, but she picked up a round stone nonetheless and smashed a grain of salt, reluctantly dipping and tasting. Astringent, slightly bitter, with a salty flavor, but the astringent taste seemed to dominate. On the second taste, Nyan Shutong refrained from dipping into the salt. It was distasteful. It had marred her perfect potatoes. As the breakfast ended, Nyan Shutong finished the leftover potatoes from yesterday. Not quite full, Nyan Shutong pondered on ways to make money. Robbing a sickly man wasn't a sustainable plan. Who knew when he might be gone? Zhao He, what do you think I should do to earn money? Fu Yun tried his best to overlook Nyan Shutong's nickname for him and contemplated her question, not having the heart to dash her hopes. Nearly all professions were tied to spiritual power and physical ability cultivation, yet Shutong was deficient in both. He cautiously said, how about opening a shop on Star Network? That didn't require any special abilities, just the ability to sell things. Open a shop? Nyan Shutong thought for a moment and realized it was indeed a good idea. She'd have to sell the food she grew in exchange for money, use money to buy seeds, plant seeds for cultivation resources. A perfect cycle. Okay. Let's open a shop. Chapter 15. Spending money again. Nyan Shutong was decisive and straightforward, with a carefree demeanor. Come on, tell me how to open a store. Nyan Shutong called Fu Yun over, busily navigating her star network. Right now, you can only start with a level 1 shop. Fu Yun paused on the page for selecting shops and clicked on a starter store. On the screen, store number XW444444444 was successfully opened. Nyan Shutong looked at the digits and, with her memory absorbed, knew how to pronounce the number. 9 fours, 4, 4, 4. Nyan Shutong started to sound a bit off as she read, and wondered if the pronunciation was somewhat humorous. A catchy account name costs money, Fu Yun said in one sentence, and Nyan Shutong immediately waved her hand, saying very certainly, this one. Everyone dies in the end, it's easy to remember. What do we do next? Fu Yun continued operating on the Star Network's page. First thing, if you display goods, you'll need to pay a deposit of 500 star coins, which will increase as the store level goes up. Secondly, it's better to decorate your shop a bit, or else I'm afraid no one will visit. Nyan Shutong looked at the drab store, pushed open the door, and saw a small space with just 3 shelves. Indeed, it was overly simplistic. She immediately decorated it a bit, changing the walls to a verdant green, the shelves to a natural wood color, and placing 2 flower pots at the entrance. Even these minor amenities ended up costing her another 1,000 star coins. She hadn't earned a penny yet but had already spent quite a bit. Since Nyan Shutong temporarily had no goods, she closed the shop. Next, she needed to research farming. Oh. Right, if I want to sell things without letting others know it's me selling, what should I do? Fu Yun understood Nyan Shutong's approach well, as at least half the people on the Star Network had the same idea. On the Star Network, you can completely hide your identity, so you won't be discovered. However, if you're shipping goods, you'll need to buy a black hole transmitter which will uniformly transport the items to a distribution center to be sent out. Goods sent through the black hole transmitter cannot be traced back to the seller's information. Nyan Shutong nodded again and again, finding it quite convenient, indeed a good accessory for shady deals. However, what? Nyan Shutong looked at Fu Yun. Fu Yun cleared his throat and said, the black hole transmitter is a bit pricey, it costs 100,000 star coins. Nyan Shutong's eyes widened. 100,000? Yes, if that's too expensive, you use the most common method, call a robot, they'll pick up the goods for free. Nyan Shutong temporarily ignored the rest of what Fu Yun said as she did the math. She had the housekeeper's 10,000, Fu Yun's 100,000, 750, 5,000, plus King's 1,000. But she had spent 20,000 buying seeds and another 500 renting that egg-shaped flying device, plus 1,000 to decorate the store, and would have to spend another 500 when she put up goods for sale. The main thing was, she hadn't planted a single plot of land yet. If she bought this black hole transmitter, she would end up owing 5,650 star coins instead. Ancient poverty is the hardest to cure? She hadn't even warmed up to it yet. Was this body destined to be without wealth? Nyan Shutong thought about doing some fortune-telling, but her original body was an adopted orphan without an exact birth date. I've got it, Nyan Shutong was sure she would buy it. But first, she needed to farm and complete the task given by the system. She also needed to solve the problem of lunch and dinner, since that was now her only source of income. What are you going to do? Fu Yun watched Nyan Shutong pull out a shovel from her space button, poised to cross the river with great vigor. Farm, make money. Chapter 16 Reclamation. Nyan Shutong left without looking back, and Fu Yun couldn't catch up even if he wanted to. Moreover, he didn't dare to chase after her, as he became weaker once he left the barrier, dying even faster. But still. Farming for money. Is that reliable? Within the Interstellar Empire, there are indeed people who farm, but those are the top-tier families in the 1st District and the 2nd District, as non-toxic plants are quite expensive. Or rather, anything related to ancient culture is very rare and precious after the cultural interruption. Of course, if you don't mind the radiation toxins, you can directly consume the toxic ones. After all, as long as you can cultivate spiritual power, you can expel the toxins from your body, though it will affect the speed of your cultivation. But Nyan Shutong seemed not so simple. Fu Yun didn't know her before, but just that one potato had greatly shocked him. He was curious and wanted to follow her and see. But after walking a few steps, he was tired, very tired, extremely tired. Fu Yun sat on a rock, desperately breathing, and after finally studying, he opened the Star Network and bought himself a vehicle for transportation. After buying it, he looked at his account balance, which wasn't much. Although he had some wild income, it wasn't a lot. At that time, he didn't care much about money and generously gave the majority to his subordinates, and now, he wished he could beat up his past self. It seemed, the next step was to earn money first. After all, his connection with Nyan Shutong mainly relied on him spending money. If he lost this ability to spend money, it probably wouldn't be long before Nyan Shutong expelled him. Fu Yun looked at the star network and skillfully opened the largest forum. There were all sorts of people asking for solutions. Requesting a technical analysis report for SW719 Mecha. Urgent, high reward for papers on guiding spiritual power, please. Looking for mecha piloting skills, Fu Yun randomly clicked on a topic that stated that a satisfactory answer could earn 10,000 star coins. He opened a blank document and began editing. Hard to believe that he, a one-time commander, had fallen to this. Relying on writing assignments for students to make a living. Don't doubt it, 90% of the people on this forum are students, all seeking papers and problem solutions. Fu Yun was like a max-level boss, suddenly dropped into a newbie village, and for the sake of the small rewards there, he was desperately working. And on each response, he humbly left a line, please give a 5-star rating. Bittersweet and somewhat comical. While Fu Yun was fully committed to earning money, on the other side, Nyan Shutong had already dug up to her 27th shovel of soil. Beep. Soil testing unsuccessful, not suitable for planting potatoes. Nyan Shutong, carrying the shovel, continued walking. By the time she reached her 47th dig, she finally heard a heavenly voice. Beep. Soil testing successful, the host can start farming. Phew, Nyan Shutong, sweating, sat down on the ground and, with an eager-to-learn spirit, asked, how do I plant potatoes? Beep. Planting knowledge sent, please check, host. Nyan Shutong silently checked, and her mind acquired some knowledge on planting potatoes. So, I need to start by breaking new ground. Nyan Shutong looked at the land in front of her, surrounded by trees that were 10 to 20 meters tall, with countless leaves and stones on the ground. And she, all by herself, had to clear an acre of land to plant potatoes. So, farming isn't easy after all. Nyan Shutong let out a sigh and got to work without delay. Morning or evening, it was all the same, she preferred to get busy first and enjoy later. Packing away the system's small shovel, Nyan Shutong started with moving the stones. She piled all the stones together, maybe they would be useful later. It was almost noon, and Nyan Shutong was already hungry. She had stopped moving stones and began walking further inside to see if there was anything she could eat. It would be best not to spend money, if possible. While walking, she stumbled upon a bunch of green stalks, over 2 meters tall, with slender leaves. Several items resembling rods jutted out from the stalk. Beep. New farmland plant detected, corn. Chapter 17 Cooking corn. Corn? Is it edible? This was Nyan Shutong's most pressing concern at the moment. Ding. The corn is edible, but the corn found by the host is poisonous. Poisonous? No worries, as long as it's edible. Nyan Shutong stretched out a hand and laid it on the corn stalk. If anyone could see it, they would notice that a continuous stream of impurities, the toxins, were being absorbed and filtered by Nyan Shutong. Eventually, a droplet the size of 1/10 of a grain of rice formed and fell into her danshan, without causing even a ripple. Nyan Shutong repeated the process with 10 corn stalks and then asked, is it edible now? Ding. The current corn is edible, though the taste is somewhat poor. Please check the food preparation guide. What a thoughtful little system. After checking the guide, Nyan Shutong found that the simplest methods were boiling in water or roasting over a fire. If she roasted potatoes yesterday, then today she might as well try boiling corn. In the interstellar space, only animals, plants, and non-cultivation humans are affected by radiation. Other things, like water, rocks, minerals, etc., are unaffected. Nyan Shutong couldn't help but think of the saying, the great Tao produces the 50, but the heavens manifest 49, the one that escapes is the variable. This also counted as a survival space left for humans. Nyan Shutong shook off the thought from her mind, bundled up the corn stalks, and dragged them back to the small wooden house. At this moment, Fu Yun in the small wooden house had just finished writing a short paper and received his reward. He didn't write a second one, mainly because his body couldn't take it. The scooter he bought, along with 2 lounge chairs, had already been delivered by robots. Now, he was lying in front of the small wooden house, taking a little rest. When Nyan Shutong returned, she saw this scene. Quite the enjoyment. Zhao He, want some corn? One Zhao He made Fu Yun wordlessly open his eyes. He saw Nyan Shutong dump a bundle of unrecognizable plants on the ground. This is edible? Fu Yun got up, walked down, and crouched on the ground. A check with spiritual power confirmed there were no toxins. Could there really be non-toxic plants here? That shouldn't be the case, yet living evidence was right before his eyes. Fu Yun didn't fret over it. He plucked a long blade-like leaf and popped it into his mouth. Tui. You're going to eat this? Nyan Shatong looked at Fu Yun, noting his disdain and disbelief, and then glanced at the leaf left in his hand. Could this man have eaten himself into a sickly state? Why didn't he think before eating anything? At least she knew to ask before taking action. Nyan Shatong didn't answer but instead groped around for a pot. Unfortunately, none was to be found, and stones were too slow. Hey, Zhao He, buy a pot and I'll make you something good to eat. What's to eat? Fu Yun shook the leaf in his hand. It wasn't his fault he ate a leaf. There was a severe disconnection with cultural knowledge in interstellar society, with very few edible plant varieties, and he didn't recognize corn at all. Eat this. Who told you to eat leaves? Nyan Shatong broke off an ear of corn and threw it at Fu Yun's feet. Now, Fu Yun realized he had been eating the wrong part. Curious, he promptly bought pots, pans, and the whole kit. Delivery was even faster this time. The items arrived in less than half an hour. Finally, Nyan Shatong could start boiling the corn. She followed the system's method, leaving a thin layer of husk on the corn, tossed it into the water, and started cooking. At first, neither of them felt anything special. But as time passed, a unique fragrance wafted into their noses. Already starving, Nyan Shatong simply squatted by the pot, waiting for the time to pass. Fu Yun initially held back, but later the scent became too tantalizing, and he slowly edged closer. One was a former poison immortal, who for many years had not partaken in the food of the mortal world, the other, an empire's first commander, who had spent nearly a century on battlefields with no time for mortal delicacies. For such two individuals who had once commanded the wind and clouds, their greatest wish at this moment was, hurry up and cook. Hurry up and cook. Hurry up and cook. Chapter 18 Selling Corn. Nyan Shatong stared intently at the pot, pressing a hand to her stomach and said, being anxious is useless, you have to cook it for the right amount of time. How long? Fu Yun, who had already shifted from squatting to sitting, couldn't help but ask. Nyan Shatong, whose attention had been fixed on the corn, turned away with a smile brimming on her face to look at Fu Yun. Fu Yun's radar instantly went online, and he took a deep breath and said, I've bought a pot. In other words, the money had already been paid. 1 corn for 1 pot. Nyan Shatong extended her arm that was asking for money, shaking it as she said, eating one is also okay. Just as she was about to retract her arm, Fu Yun spoke. I'll buy. Fu Yun opened the star network with a familiar sense of bitterness and asked, how much? Nyan Shatong treated this question with the utmost seriousness. She gestured and said, this corn is much bigger than a potato, but it's a different variety, so I'll still charge 1,000 star coins each. Can't always let you suffer a loss. Suffer a loss? Fu Yun felt like it was his destiny to be taken advantage of, so without struggling he simply paid 5,000 star coins for 5 pieces. While the two were operating, Nyan Shatong's set timer sounded. You can eat now. Nyan Shatong quickly returned to the pot, lifted the lid, and holding a large spoon, began to scoop out the corn. Both of them, not minding the heat, each took an ear, with Fu Yun watching Nyan Shatong, trying to learn how to eat, as he didn't know. Nyan Shatong peeled back the husk, munching on the corn kernels within. The fresh aroma of the corn, the kernels plump yet tender, burst apart with each bite. An even sweeter flavor filled his mouth. Nyan Shatong just kept on taking big bites of the corn, delicious and also scorching hot. Fu Yun, on the other hand, delicately peeled the husk and took a small bite, very civilized. But after just one taste, the speed at which he ate the corn quickened, and his mouth opened wider and wider. To hell with being civilized. This corn was unbelievably delicious. Comparable to the feast at a celebration banquet. Keep in mind, that's food prepared by top chefs for the royal family who, even though they're royalty, can't eat such meals every day. Sometimes they also have to drink nutrient liquid. But now, the corn he ate was not losing out to those carefully prepared gourmet dishes. The purest flavor of the corn conquered them both. Fu Yun wasn't in good health, but he didn't leave a single kernel of the 6 ears he had, even wanting to nibble on the cob. Nyan Shatong went on to munch through more than a dozen, finally sitting down contentedly. Hey? Zhao He, do you think it would be a good idea to sell this corn in my shop? Fu Yun, pondering why the corn didn't have any healing effects, turned to look at Nyan Shatong. It should sell well, it tastes good. How much for one? Nyan Shatong didn't understand much about market prices. Most of the original host's memories involved being alone in the room browsing the star network, chasing stars or something, not looking at anything practical. Fu Yun pondered for a moment, this thing really wasn't easy to price. After all, such gourmet products are very expensive. If your shop sets it too high, no one will buy it. Set too low, it seems mismatched with the flavor of the corn. Nyan Shatong nodded in understanding and said, "It doesn't matter, there's plenty. Let's list a few and see, set it at 100 star coins each." 100? He had paid 1,000 star coins each, that's quite a difference. Nyan Shatong also realized this and comfortingly said, "Don't mind it, from now on you can buy at the market price." Fu Yun was speechless, as if he had to thank her. Chapter 19 Robots. Shatong Nyan didn't care about Fu Yun's feelings at all. After having her fill, she shouldered her iron shovel and continued to clear the wilderness. Curious, Fu Yun followed in his own purchased vehicle. The vehicle was small, with a tiny seat that Fu Yun sat on. It had an energy shield on top, capable of shielding toxins for a short period. Beneath were two mechanical legs, operating like those of a praying mantis, dodging obstacles to ensure a smooth ride for the passenger. When the pair arrived at the intended land to be reclaimed, Fu Yun saw Shatong Nyan first pulling weeds with her bare hands, and after tidying a patch, she took up her little iron shovel to turn the soil. After about 3 hours, Shatong Nyan finally cleared a piece of land 5 meters square, casually wiping the sweat from her forehead, breathing heavily with fatigue. Fu Yun drove up close and steadied the vehicle beside Shatong Nyan. "Shatong Nyan, why are you doing this yourself?" Wiping her sweat, Shatong Nyan turned her head, looking disdainfully at Fu Yun and said, "Do you think you can do it?" "Of course I can't, but you could buy a robot. They can work 24 hours without stopping." 24 hours? Without stopping? Shatong Nyan stared intently at Fu Yun and asked, "How much?" Thinking of Shatong Nyan's love for money and her eagerness to earn, he responded, "The cheap ones are a few thousand star coins, and you can even buy a second-hand one for a few hundred star coins." Hearing the prices, Shatong Nyan found them really affordable, but her poverty was the problem. She did think about selling corn to make money, but she hadn't bought a black hole transmitter and couldn't ship the goods. She hesitated for a moment and then told Fu Yun, "Pick a second-hand one for me. Deduct the money from your dinner." Fu Yun didn't refuse and, in front of Shatong Nyan, accessed the Star Network, found a forum, and searched for a robot capable of working. Eventually, he bought a second-hand, or rather, multi-hand robot for 370 star coins. "All set, it will be delivered shortly." "Thanks, Zhao He, I didn't realize you were actually useful. You go on ahead and wait." After speaking, Shatong Nyan turned and continued to clear the land. Taking one step is better than none, just like cultivation, you regress if you do not advance. Fu Yun was now able to completely ignore Shatong Nyan's words as he drove the vehicle toward the small wooden house. After Fu Yun had left, Shatong Nyan took out a potato from the system and a small knife. Following the planting instructions, she sliced off the eyes of the potato, dipped them in a powder given by the system, and began planting. The newly cleared plot was quickly planted, and Shatong Nyan didn't do more than necessary. Instead, she went to the cornfield to prepare to bring back some corn. For now, it was their staple food. When Shatong Nyan returned with a bundle of cornstalks, she saw Fu Yun fixing a metallic skeleton. "Is this the robot you bought?" Fu Yun felt a bit embarrassed, he had been duped. This wasn't the working robot at all. Who knew where the seller had dug up this ancient relic? It was a model that had been phased out decades ago. Shatong Nyan didn't understand these things very well. She looked at the dirt gold skeleton in front of her. Why would a robot's body contain so many toxins? "Let's keep it for now," said Shatong Nyan with some interest, deciding to keep it. She began to start a fire and continued cooking corn. Seeing that Shatong Nyan didn't mind, Fu Yun decided to leave it be. In the evening, the two of them still had boiled corn for dinner. Afterward, Shatong Nyan scraped out 2 black corn cobs from under the pot. Holding one, she asked Fu Yun, "Want one?" "How much?" Chapter 20 Borrowing money. Fu Yun naturally asked, and Nyan Shatong answered unexpectedly. "Don't talk about money, talking about money makes us strangers." Nyan Shatong first peeled the charred husk of the corn, which tasted completely different from boiled corn, making Fu Yun realize she was preparing a big move. However, he definitely wasn't going to leave now, so he might as well eat first. Fu Yun took the corn, broke off a kernel, and popped it into his mouth. The more he chewed, the tastier it got, and after a few kernels, he said, "Go ahead." Nyan Shatong put on her most amiable smile and began speaking softly. "I want to advance some of your meal allowance." "Advance? Meal allowance?" That just meant borrowing money. Fu Yun looked at Nyan Shatong, who made borrowing money sound so elegant and fresh, and he couldn't help but admire her. Still, the loan had to be made. "How much are you advancing?" Fu Yun's straightforwardness pleased Nyan Shatong. She raised a finger and said, 10,000 star coins. Fu Yun, who had some knowledge of Nyan Shatong's finances, readily agreed. That's fine. Are you buying a black hole transmitter? Yes. If I don't buy it, I'll never make any money. Let's buy it first and talk later. After Nyan Shatong finished speaking, she opened her Star Network account and said to Fu Yun, "Can you help me buy it?" She was still a bit slow to accept this kind of technology. Sure. Nyan Shatong transferred the money for the black hole transmitter to Fu Yun, along with the just advanced 10,000 star coins, leaving her with just over 4,000 star coins. But that didn't include the 10,000 she had advanced from Fu Yun, so in reality, she was now in debt for over 6,000. Life is tough. This might be the poorest she's ever been. Fu Yun placed the order, a standard price of 100,000 star coins, firm. Watching his account balance dwindle, Fu Yun felt a strong sense of urgency. He had to start making money fast, otherwise, he wouldn't be able to keep up with Nyan Shatong's spending rate. Now that the shipping issue was settled, Nyan Shatong thought about her own plans. Sell corn, make some money, plant potatoes, sell more, buy seeds, and farm again. Round and round, she was finally ready to really start. One of the many benefits of Interstellar is definitely speed. 40 minutes later, the black hole transmitter Nyan Shatong purchased was delivered. A small black box, 20 centimeters square, with 2 buttons on it, green for on and red for off, very simple to operate. After giving a 5-star review, Nyan Shatong prepared her boiled corn on the light computer holographic projection and put it up for sale. Each shelf displayed 10 virtual corns, trying to reproduce the corn's shape and taste exactly. Nyan Shatong even raised the price on each shelf, 1,500 star coins, with a total of 15 shelves. Now, all she had to do was wait for orders. Fu Yun watched Nyan Shatong bustling around and didn't have the heart to dampen her spirits. Though they say a fine wine needs no bush, if your alley is 100,000 miles deep, that might not hold true. Everything all set, they each returned to their rooms, one to comb through spiritual power, the other to prepare for cultivation. Just as Nyan Shatong was getting ready, she heard Daodao's call. Master. Master. I've made a great discovery. Nyan Shatong sat up from her cultivation posture and communicated with Daodao via divine sense. What great discovery. Master. This planet is actually the same one from our cultivation world. What? Nyan Shatong was unmistakably shocked. How could that be possible? Really, Master, it's just that it's been a long time. Our era of cultivation gradually disappeared, akin to their ancient times. After several 100 million years, they moved to a phase of men farming and women weaving, then to technology, apocalypse, and now to this era of interstellar, spanning several 100 million years again. Then wouldn't the heart of this planet be a treasure?